Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. It is now the final top 5 of my rock guitar series, and we're finishing off with rock. We've done blues, metal, hard rock, shred, and now it's time for our what we call rock players. I mean, again, we've talked about the genre crossing a little bit, but these are top 5 fantastic rock musicians. And I think when doing the list of this one compared to the others, I think the thing that stood out the most is these guys have such a distinctive sound. Not that the others don't, but these you could pick out nearly every single one with 1-2 notes maximum. If you like them, you know them. And that's what makes these guys great. And these are some of my favourites. So, starting off with my top 5 rock. In 5th place is going to be a little bit controversial for some people, because I'm sure most people that are into the sort of classic rock music would have him as number 1 or number 2 in this category, and probably the same overall, but not for me. So, at number 5, we've got the master Jimmy Page. What he did with Led Zeppelin is legendary. It's always going to be legendary, and his tone, the way he played, the riffs he came up with are phenomenal. The solo stuff he's done has not really held up as well, but when you are the lead guitarist of Led Zeppelin, you don't need to do anything else. That's it. From Whole Lot of Love, Kashmir, Good Times, Bad Times, there's so many tracks to pick with Jimmy Page. He is a legendary guitar player. He always has been, always will be. Another one of those players like Clapton that started off in the mid-60s that's just gone all the way through and made his mark. Zeppelin, I mean, are they the most popular rock band in the world? Probably. They're one of the most iconic. And Jimmy Page has got to be on anyone's top 5 list. So for me, yeah, easy 5. Number 4. Probably the most distinctive guitar tone I think I've ever heard, and also one of the most inventive guitar players that have ever walked the face of the earth. And the dude's clever as well. And number 4 is Brian May. Now, Brian May's worked with Queen, everything from, you know, Bohemian Rhapsody to I Want It All, and all the way through his solo career with Resurrection. The guy just stands out on his own. He's so creative, and the stuff he's doing now with things Alison Krauss, the acoustic stuff, he's just got such a broad spectrum of ability, and everyone knows he's a very, very clever guy. But his tone and the guitar, you know, him and his dad built that guitar, the tone is just so different than anyone else. When you hear Brian May, you know it's Brian May, and that again is one of those things that makes guitarists great. When they hit a note and you're like, ah, it's him, straight away, that's it. You don't get that so much. I don't find that so much with metal players. I don't particularly find that with shred players, apart from Malmsteen, because you sort of know that sort of classical, neoclassical style. But Brian May, straight in, and you know you're listening to Queen or Brian May solo stuff. Number 3, literally the bloke that made less, well, you know, less is more. Yeah, less is more. The opposite to Malmsteen, what said, how can less be more when more is more? This guy literally is less is more, and he does it very, very well, and that's Dave Gilmour. Now, Dave Gilmour, all his work with Pink Floyd, and again with his solo stuff as well, but with Pink Floyd, his tone is so distinctive. Very, very classical Strat style, very classic Strat style sound, but with some, I think he uses EMG pickups through his effects. It's got that. When you listen to Dark Side of the Moon or Wish You Were Here, there can't be anyone else that plays like that. No, there can't be. There isn't anyone else. I don't think I've ever heard anyone go, oh, he sounds like Dave Gilmour. It just doesn't happen. There's a guy that's sort of close in a band called Mostly Autumn, although they're not too popular, so you probably won't have come across them. But Dave Gilmour's work, and again, I mean, Pink Floyd are just a monster band. His tone, his playability is just, yeah, fantastic. Easy number 3. Number 2, the guy that you could listen to all day long, day in, day out, and it'll make your head bop to your drop, Angus Young from AC/DC. He is the archetypal rock guitarist. Is he a blues player? Is he a hard rock player? You know, you could sort of dress these about, but for me, he's just, when I think of rock music, when someone says, you know, who's a great rock guitarist, Angus Young, all the stuff, AC/DC's back catalogue, all the way through to now, is unbelievable. For me personally, things like Powerage and Highway to Hell, they're my favourites. But you can pretty much pick anything from Angus and just be happy. I mean, the guy is it's not as simplistic as people think it is. Some of their popular songs like Back in Black are quite simple to play on the guitar, and then probably one of the first sort of guitar solos you learn to play. But he constructed it like that, and then you get into other songs, and he's just an unbelievable guitar player. Just really, really good. And again, very distinctive sound. That quite heavy blues rock sound. You know it's them. When AC/DC come on, you know it's them, and it's game over. My number one. I've talked about him a little bit before, but not too in depth. And this guy is going to feature heavily on my top 10. His style is like no other. So not just his tone, his actual style of playing the guitar is like no other, and that is the awesome Mark Knopfler. Dire Straits are a big part of my heart when it comes to my sort of classic rock journey, should we say. They're one of the first bands I really got into, and his style of his playing, where he plays with his fingers, it just gives a whole nother sound. And the fact that he plays very cleanly as well makes learning some of his guitar parts extremely difficult. You start trying to learn things like Sultans of Swing, Tunnel of Love, probably one of my favourites, Telegraph Road. You can't replicate that with a pick. So if you can't play your fingers, you can't play it. So you've just wiped out a load of guitar players straight away. And that's what gives him his distinctive sound. It was extremely innovative. A way of playing the guitar, when you think, well, okay, you know, I know Beck played with that pick, and you know, a lot of the guys, but when you look at the rock players around at the time, there really kind of was only him in that sort of, you know, being a huge band, because Dire Straits were ginormous in the 80s, you know, Money for Nothing, what a riff to write, jeez, you know. And then you go all the way through the band's discography, and it's great. They didn't do enough. I wish they'd done more. But then, saying that, maybe they did the right amount that everyone still looks at and goes, wow. Which is probably true to a point. I wish a lot of bands hadn't carried on, because I think a lot of big top rock bands sort of, not sullied their name, but sort of aren't held as in high regard. You know, would Jimi Hendrix have been held in such high regard if he'd have made it through the 80s and the 90s? You know, would he have put out some stuff that wasn't so good? Would he have been held in? You know, if Zeppelin would have carried on another 3 or 4 albums on top that weren't so good, would their name have been as big as it is now? Probably not. Anyway, that's for another subject. So my number one, by an absolute flipping mile, Mark Knopfler, my number one rock guitarist of all time. The next video will be a reaction video, and after that we will be doing my top 10 guitarists of all time, all put into one. So all of the 5 series are all going to go in there, and we'll see where they fit. So I'd like to know who you think are the top 5 rock guitar players of all time, and then when we go on to the top 10, let's see if we actually sneak in a couple in the one on any of the top 5 lists, because I've sort of missed a few, I think. One in particular, but I talked about that before. So thank you ever so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will catch you on the next video.